The topic is about the commercialization of the Olympic Games Moscow souvenir. Olympic Game is a global event. It is a modern mass because the Greeks never suspended their vows. The church did allow those religious pilgrims who were traveling to Olympia to pass through warring territory unmolested, because they were protected by those. Olympic spirits are arranged: base, foreleg, oak, Hades, a film and foul. With the development of the Olympic Games, the relevant types of souvenirs and the amount of them are increased. For the scene of this video, I would like to focus on the Moscow souvenir sales. As for the phenomenon about designing Moscow for Olympic Games, I interviewed Lisa, who is majored in graphic design. She said,
about the graphics and the logos and the mascots that happen in conjunction with the Olympic Games. And what do I think? Um, well, if you mean that the mascots and the logos, or the mascots in particular, are supposed to embody the spirit of the Olympic Games, I'm not sure that that's all that successful generally. I can see that the mascots, I can see how they add to the event, they generate fun and colour perhaps around the event, but I'm not sure that they successfully embody the spirit.
at the same time, which design become Olympic mascots have its own rules. For example, real Olympic Games, they need over the 3 weeks following the presentation of the Olympic and Paralympic mascot. A public vote took place to select their respective name. In the 1968 Winter Olympic Games in France, the first mascot made its appearance here. However, it was not an official mascot. There was an unofficial dove mascot at that time. It is officially approved the idea of an Olympic Games mascot at the 73rd section of the International Olympic Committee in 1972 in Munich. Thus, the first official Olympic Games mascot was Waldy, which is the duck's hand at the 1972 Munich Olympic Games. After that, mascots have become the major part of the Olympic brand. The first Olympic Games, which staged after the Second World War, the specter of commerce was conspicuous at that time. F. Branch, who was the president of the International Olympic Committee, and also he was a right-wing businessman from the USA. He opposed with a messianic vehemence any moves to develop the Olympics on a more commercialized footing. Even when he nearly retired, he was still declaring that International Olympic Committee should have nothing to do with money. At 1972 in Munich Olympic Games. However, as the Olympic Games has becoming a high-profile global phenomenon that attracts most prominent cities and capitals in the world to try for a chance to bid for the prize of hosting an Olympic game, especially the Summer Games, that is recognized. And also, they do not want to give its products away in one go and want to sell products to make more profit, so that the summer and the winter games were separated by the IOC organization. After the Summer Olympic Games and the Winter Olympic Games of 1992, that decision had been taken in 1986. In the wake of the euphoria of the profile and the profitability of the 1984 Los Angeles Olympics. Also, there is little doubt about that it is a chance of giving better value to those companies signed to be preferred partners in the IOC's new sponsorship programs. For the IOC's bidding progress and the marketing strategy, that curve seemed to be separate progresses. However, as the IOC has exploited its products in increasingly successful ways in the 2 decades since the pivotal Los Angeles Games, it has become clear that the progresses are 2 dimensions of a single progress, which is the intensifying commercialization and the commodification of the Olympic product. The phenomenon which sells souvenirs show the Olympic game culture and the country's culture. Let me list several examples. From the research, in 2004 Olympic Games, the total income from the event was 2.09 billion euros. There were 530 million euros from souvenir sales, which is nearly a quarter of total income. In 2012 London Olympic Games, the organizers of London were set to raise almost 100 million pounds from souvenir sales. Furthermore, in about 2016 Rio Olympic Games, organizers hold that Olympic souvenirs must carry the mascot logo, and they guaranteed the sale of $400 million. The organizing committee will raise about 15 to 20% of sales of branded that, with the rest going to licensed manufacturers and vendors. It seems that the extendance of mascot is becoming increasingly towards to commercialization now. For this, Lisa's opinion is that
I do, because I think it's a problem of our current time. It's not specific to the Olympic Games, but it obviously is apparent if you mean the way the merchandise, everything is so commercialised, and the merchandise is produced to raise funds, I guess, but the cost of putting on something like an Olympic event is so huge, and some countries have it's cost them very dearly. So I suppose you do have to find a way of raising funds, and the merchandise that goes with the Olympic Games is obviously one way of doing that. But I think there is a problem in just filling the world with more stuff that no one really wants, which is what happens. You buy your Olympic Games cap or mug, and probably a few weeks later it's in the bin, which is not a good idea at all. How to balance it? Well, you could given that you've got to raise funds, and given that people also, it's a momentous event, and we all like to take part in some way or feel that we are participating in some way. And you do, certainly with the Olympic Games that were held in London, it was a wonderful event, and you do want a souvenir of that time as a sort of memory. I mean, I kept my Games entrance tickets as a souvenir. So what you need to do, I suppose, is make sure that the merchandise you're producing or the souvenirs you're producing are very environmentally take the environment into account, so that if you're producing stuff, make sure it's easy to dispose of, or perhaps use recycled materials even. So although that might not well, I think you can sell it on. I think people will buy anything as a souvenir, quite frankly. So let's make it so that it doesn't damage or cost the earth, cost us, human existence at the same time.
So that it is better to balance the souvenir sale and the meaning of the activity itself.